Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 83 of the Knowing Wheel podcast. And bizarrely, I've started this podcast because Matt is out of office, as you can probably see already. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm all right, thank you, mate. And you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm surprised that I think for the first time in getting on for 2 years of this podcast, it's actually you who's not where they usually are, rather than me. Because that seems
It has
all the time.
happened once before.
Wasn't a real podcast, though, was that? Or was that?
No, we did do quite a few of the car reveals, didn't we, when I was away?
Yeah.
But yeah, normally it's Jamie with the jet-setting lifestyle. But yeah, this week I'm currently back out with Alfa Romeo, all an F1 team, Sauber Esports. So I'm currently in a Swiss hotel. I mean, if ever there was a podcast where you didn't want to see my face, it's this one, because I've been awake now for about 16 hours. So yeah, if you want to go check out, there will be links to Spotify, everything like that down below. As you will probably also be able to tell, I'm apparently making this a bit of an ASMR show this week. I obviously probably got people in hotel rooms right next to me, so I don't really think they want to listen all night to us to ramble on about the goings-on for the Mexican Grand Prix. But yeah, check out links in the description below, of course. Spotify, Bybit, F1 merch, all that good stuff. It'll all be linked down there, as always. And of course, timestamps as well, if you want to skip forward to any point in the show. But yeah, Jamie, start us off then. You've taken the lead today. I'm liking this.
So Mexican Grand Prix weekend, of course. Pre-weekend, though, we had a bit of news regarding your hosts, actually, Alfa Romeo, or more specifically Sauber, which has been kind of the worst kept secret for all of the year, really. Ever since the Audi rumblings have started, it's kind of been like, oh, they're going to they're going to take over Sauber, which has now been officially confirmed for 2026. But they're but they're what, a title sponsor from next year, isn't it?
No.
Oh, is that not right?
So Alfa Romeo, if I remember correctly, and I really hope I'm not leaking information I shouldn't be by saying this, because you never quite remember what you're told in confidence. I'm pretty certain it's Alfa Romeo's contract ends at the end of next year.
Yeah,
anyway. Good, that's reassuring. Unless I've accidentally told you this
as well.
You
might have told me already. Yeah. You might going to get arrested halfway through this.
Exactly. But yeah, Audi, though, don't officially step in as an engine supplier till 2026. But it looks like from the end of 2023, they're going to slowly be buying more and more of a stake into Sauber, of course, once Alfa Romeo have gone, which should then obviously mean by the time we get to 2026, they will, I think it's have a 51% stake in Sauber as well there. And of course, it makes no sense for Audi to rename the team before they're powering the cars, because how ridiculous would that look if it's an Audi Sauber Formula 1 car with Ferrari power units?
Yeah, so I don't know. Will they go back to Sauber for those 2 years, I guess?
Yes. It's looking like they'll go back to Sauber for 2024, 2025.
That's very cool. I missed the Sauber name.
But that's not insider information. That's just what we're assuming at the moment.
Yes. And yeah, 2026, of course, the new engine regs, that's when they're coming in. And the other big manufacturer there's been lots of talk about is Porsche. And yeah, they're kind of getting into their Williams a little bit as well, which is another bit of pre-weekend news. It's not anything like official yet, but those are the sort of the murmurs from the paddock, which, there's no smoke without fire. That's probably going to happen. Porsche and Williams, that's an interesting one as well. Obviously, we see Williams kind of moving away from Mercedes more and more towards Red Bull. It has been, but potentially Porsche Williams, maybe Porsche taking the Red Bull powertrains eventually. Never know.
No, that's definitely not.
That's not actually happening, is it? I forgot about that.
No. Yeah. I think it's a bit weird, isn't it? Because, of course, what we tend to forget is the fact that this isn't the Williams of old, that was fiercely independent and all this, that, and the other. Williams nowadays is literally just... Obviously, they got bought out by Dorilton Capital a couple of years ago. Dorilton Capital, are an investment firm. They'll look to flip that team for a profit and prove they got money back on their investment. And obviously, it makes perfect sense for them. Again, we don't really want to lose the Williams name itself, do we, from Formula 1?
No.
But Porsche Williams, they're both companies that have been heavily sponsored by Martini back in the day. You get the Martini liveries back, come on. And I think, it's kind of interesting, though, when you sort of look at the broader picture inside F1, because what we're going to very quickly find is, without any new teams, obviously Porsche and Audi are effectively going to have two teams, and they're kind of under one, the VW Group umbrella. Obviously, Red Bull have got two Formula One teams in Red Bull and AlphaTauri. Obviously, Mercedes have still got a fair share of control, to a certain degree with Aston Martin. Obviously, Ferrari still have a fair amount of control over Haas. Then you're kind of just left with McLaren, aren't you? And one
Renault.
other team that I'm forgetting. And Renault, sorry,
Alpine.
we're kind of stepping into quite a weird space, aren't we? Where theoretically, when you look like that, it kind of just looks like Haas could get left behind.
Yeah, unless Ferrari really want to kind of back them up. But it remains to be seen, really. Because you've got all these manufacturers. Effectively, you've got 5 or 6 factory teams, and a lot of them have
isn't it, really?
to have their junior team as well.
Yeah,
which is kind of mad. But yeah, Haas. Hopefully for them, they find some big backing. They've obviously got a new title sponsor for next year as well, which hopefully goes better than the previous 2 title sponsors that they've had. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see. 2026 though it feels a long way away, but we'll be there in no time. To be fair,
we will. Episode 400 on the show.
His 4th or 5th title by then, however many it will be.
Yeah. Possibly Hamilton will be still gunning for number 8.
To the actual racing that happened in Mexico City this weekend, and qualifying began with no real surprises. We just had the Williams and both Aston Martins and Mick Schumacher as well, who set exactly the same time as Sebastian Vettel, but both of them were out anyway. So it's kind of like sums up their seasons, barring Seb's little renaissance in the last few weeks. Yeah, they're both with each other all the time, but both being terrible. So there we go.
No, it was weird, wasn't it? Because of course we had sort of the highs of Aston Martin last weekend, and then they just didn't really deliver here. But of course, we've always known Mexico to be a bit of a weird circuit, and it's never prior to now really favoured Mercedes-powered cars anyway. But yeah, I mean, it didn't really come... To be honest, there weren't many surprises across the board out in Q1 or Q2. Of course, both Aston Martins, Williams, Mick Schumacher is quite a common thing. Williams pretty much always, both cars are out in Q1. Mick's not often delivering on a Saturday. And then both Aston Martins, Stroll is not a qualifier and Seb has struggled at times this year. And then it was kind of a similar story in Q2, wasn't it? Of course, Daniel Ricciardo out, Zhou Guanyu, Yuki Tsunoda quicker than Pierre Gasly, but both of them out. And of course, Kevin Magnussen as well, who had grid penalties for this race. So I think Haas were a little bit gutted that he made it out of Q1 instead of Mick and then started at the back anyway.
Yeah. I guess the only real, what you could call a slight surprise was Bottas getting in Q3, but the Alfa Romeo did look quick all weekend. So, yeah.
Well, Bottas looked quick in that Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, he was weirdly on it. Sadly for him, it didn't deliver that many points, but I'm sure he'd be glad to be back in them at all first time since Canada, I believe, for him.
Yes.
So
it has been a dry spell.
It was the classic top 9 plus 1 extra, which was Bottas this time.
Bottas is weak to shine.
yeah, to get 1 point. Well done.
Shine he did when we got into Q3 though, didn't he? Because, I mean, the real talk of the town was how quick Mercedes were looking. But yeah, Bottas splitting those Ferraris in P6. That was probably one of the qualifying performances of the year in the dry.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain, but I think that, fairly, felt very impressive. Like, the Ferraris were just not on it at all. I was so surprised by, this is one thing Ferrari have been good at this year, it is qualifying. Obviously, Sainz got pole position last time out, and Leclerc's had the most poles all year of anyone. So the fact they were suddenly 5th and 7th on, I guess it's an anomalous track, but it didn't favour their turbo, supposedly. But yeah, they were just not on it.
They must have turned the engine down. They must have turned the engine down a lot because they were worried about the lack of oxygen.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can sensibly think of for them. I mean, the turbo as well might have been affected based on the reduced air pressure, but you can only imagine they must have had to turn the engine down just to try and make it, or they they understepped the mark even. over sort of compensated or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they were just, I mean, it was not, they were never really in the fight all weekend, were they really?
No, they were, sort of took the role Mercedes have been taking most of the year by just chilling in 5th and 6th, not really doing very much in the race. Yeah, they were about 40 seconds ahead of midfield, about 30 seconds behind the top 4, which, Must have been pretty boring for the drivers, to be fair. But yeah, one little shout out to Sainz for beating Leclerc. Fair play. Comfortably ahead all weekend.
Again.
It's a shame the car
pace, didn't he?
Wasn't there?
Yeah, no, exactly. It was a shame you couldn't sort of try and capitalise on that. But I mean, yeah, Max Verstappen, though, as probably I think most of us were expecting, apart from me who put Leclerc pole, Max Verstappen Yep, thank you. Max Verstappen obviously fastest there. 3/10 clear, though, of George Russell, who ended up P2. Of course, Hamilton invalidated his first run, but still recovered to P3, ahead of course, the local home hero in Sergio Perez. Then, obviously, Sainz, Bottas, Leclerc, 5th, 6th, 7th. Lando Norris in P8, ahead of both Alpine. So, again, they've been a bit up and down in recent weeks, haven't they? But they were quietly kind of back where you'd expect them to be, at least on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. And like we say, we've seen that top 9 so many times. Of the top 3 teams plus both Alpines and Norris, so no real surprise.
So top 4 teams.
Yeah, true. So yeah, that was qualifying. Got to Sunday. I didn't watch any pre-race, but from what I can tell,
nor did I. I literally got, because I had to drive to Heathrow that evening. I literally got to where I was staying as they were going around the formation lap.
Oh, I unfortunately got to watch lap 2, so probably the most exciting part of the race I missed.
We both missed the start, did we?
Yeah. But yeah,
that's reassuring.
I saw a replay of the start a few times.
Talk me through it.
Yeah, we had Verstappen obviously on pole, 2 Mercedes. There was lots of talk about, Russell's going to take out Verstappen because that's what he does now, apparently.
I loved the memes.
Yeah, it is funny how quickly the enemies shift around in F1.
This is definitely a podcast we're going to do over the winter of just the titanic shifts in people's perception of F1 drivers, seemingly if they do something once.
Yeah. It's very amusing and probably quite toxic, to be fair. But no, Russell did not take out... Well, it's incredibly toxic, isn't it? Russell did not take out anyone on the first lap, but he did drop to 4th because... Yeah, he kind of, I don't know, watching it back, I kind of think he was a little bit scared of Lewis on his inside and potentially kind of bailed, and then that gave him a really bad run to allow Perez to overtake into turn 4. So yeah, Verstappen just drove off. Both Red Bulls were on softs, both Mercedes on medium tyres. And yeah, Verstappen held the lead, Hamilton up to 2nd, Perez 3rd, Russell... I don't know, quite poor. I thought it was quite poor car positioning, but then I'm sat here in my chair at home, not on a racetrack in a Formula 1 car. So who am I to judge?
Yeah.
But there we go.
I mean, I think, again, of course, I think the big thing was I'm sure George did have a talking to last week, obviously after COTA, where the team just told him, look, there's 3 races to go of the year. We kind of just need to get both cars cleanly home and hope Ferrari chuck results away if we want to try and just squeeze ahead of them. Of course, you want to beat Lewis in the championship as well. Just get through the first few corners of these Grand Prix without doing anything. And I'm sure when he saw Hamilton on the outside, that was the last person he'd want to crash into down at turn 2.
Very true. And straight away, kind of saw the classic Mexico thing of all the cars. I don't think they were struggling with cooling, but it was kind of like they couldn't follow that closely. The gaps kind of spread pretty fast all across the field, really. The leaders were 1.5 to 2 seconds apart. Hamilton did stay with Verstappen quite well in the first stint, but you kind of get the feeling that Verstappen was just holding him at an arm's length.
Yeah, and this was kind of the weird thing, wasn't it? Because by no means am I a professor of physics or anything like that. But sort of in my head, I'd kind of hyped up this race weekend as sort of being, well, we've got the ground effect. There's less air pressure, so of course there's less air being pushed out of the way. Really the ground effect, I kind of hoped in my head would be even more effective, sort of what it was designed to do. And that could mean that the cars could stay really close. And it kind of just had the opposite effect of, obviously, there was less air being pushed away, which meant the ground effect was even less effective than normal because there was less to kind of suck them to the ground.
Yeah, there's less air there to create the downforce, effectively. And we kind of saw that, I guess, with the previous generation of cars, it was more like the engines needed cooling down because they couldn't follow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like another pre-weekend thing we forgot to mention. Mexico did extend to 2025 its contract. I think it was due this year, actually. So It's good for Mexico, but it's one of those tracks that I think we can do without, to be honest.
What they need to do is dig a big hole and put it at sea level.
Can you imagine an underground F1 race? That would be so sick.
That would be so dangerous.
Yeah. But then they race in a Monaco tunnel.
Yeah, that's not underground.
Well, it's undercover. Anyway, let's move on from that tangent. I think basically I was saying this to the mates I was watching the race with, like, they'll just keep extending while Perez is on the grid, and then as soon as he's gone, they'll cut Mexico off, I feel like. But
that being said, fair play, they know how to put on a party.
Oh, they do, yeah. It's a great time for the Mexican fans who are there, and everyone who's there, really. But from an entertainment point of view, it never really throws up good races, I don't think.
No, and it's kind of that weird thing, isn't it, where, you know, Mexico you kind of expect on paper could be that race. Because the thing was, what always made Mexico quite interesting was the fact that it was less predictable. But it kind of then became less predictable for a couple of years, and then everyone would kind of guess exactly how it would be less predictable, so then it was no longer less predictable. You just expected someone different to win.
It was different, but predictable, yeah.
Yeah, predictably different, which is kind of weirdly... I mean, it's Formula 1 fans, isn't it? We can't even settle for predictably different. We just want things to be unpredictable.
Yeah.
But it's a vicious circle, isn't it, Jamie? The circle of a Formula 1 track. But like you said, you know, I don't think when Checo does eventually call it quits that track will be there much after he's gone. You know, it's certainly got a lot of history, but yeah, I just don't see why they would keep it, because everyone is only there for Checo.
Yeah, and I guess it's unless another Mexican driver comes out of the woodwork somewhere, but there's no real candidates in the youth systems of Formula 1.
Bring Gutierrez back.
Yeah, Gutierrez. I've been on a bus with him.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the first half of the race, as we said, nothing really happened. There was a bit of scrapping in the lower midfield, nothing really in the points. But one of the things that did happen was Gasly almost took out Stroll, and then got a 5-second penalty. Well, Stroll had to get forced off the track. Gasly also went off the track as well at turn 4. Got himself a 5-second penalty.
It was a Stroll-style move on Lance Stroll.
It was. But yeah, that picks Gasly up to 10 penalty points, I believe.
10 penalty points.
Yeah, which, if I was him, I would just take someone out in Brazil and then get your race ban in Abu Dhabi, go into Alpine with a clean slate. Deliberate red card.
The thing is, do you think anyone can ever go into Alpine with a clean slate? Like, there's got to be a lot of guilt on your mind.
Yeah, you've agreed to get into bed with
already,
Alpine, so you've got some very questionable life.
Self-loathing, or yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know when his penalty points will expire, but I imagine he won't deliberately get and do more.
I can't see him breaking everyone into turn 1 at Interlagos, I'll be honest. It's not where my money's at.
Jobs when it comes to penalty points anyway, because the amount of times someone's been on 10 and then they get 1 when it's usually 2. So
yeah, they won't ban him. It just won't happen. No. Like, the thing is, the only time they try and do that is when they're actually deliberately making an example out of someone, and Gasly's not really a driver that you need to do that with.
No,
I mean, most of his have been under safety car, haven't they?
Oh yeah, they have. He got penalty points for Suzuka, didn't he? Despite almost being killed
Kota.
by the FIA.
Yeah, and Kota last weekend as well for falling too far back. So it's a bit of a weird one, but I think I don't see him getting a race ban either. But yeah, 5-second penalty for Gasly. Then we kind of started to see the pit stops, didn't we? Of course, like you said, Verstappen started the race on softs. He went to lap 26, then came on to mediums. Hamilton then only was able to extend his mediums 4 laps longer. But by that point, of course, Verstappen had pitted before him, was on fresh medium tyres. Hamilton then had to go on to hards. So Verstappen then not only had a quicker tyre throughout most of the start of the Grand Prix, had 4 laps where he was on much quicker tyres, and then had quicker tyres pretty much to the end of the Grand Prix as well. It was... I understand what Mercedes were trying, and hindsight is a beautiful thing, but if you were them, would you have done the same thing?
No, I don't think so. I guess it depends on motivation. If they wanted a safe, like, hold station race, then yeah, they did the right thing, absolutely. But if you're going for wins, which when you qualify second and third, you kind of are, aren't you? Like,
Yeah,
I don't
you've got to
see
be trying
why
to think about it.
with one of their cars they could have extended the mediums and gone softs at the end, like we saw a few of the midfield do.
George wanted to.
Yeah, Russell wanted to. I
George
think they were
was so
scared.
vocal about this.
Mercedes, obviously, we've seen so much volatility between teammates in Mercedes with differing strategies, specifically 2014-16 time with Hamilton Rosberg.
Yeah.
But they absolutely hate giving drivers different strategies to each other, because then if Russell does come through and win, Hamilton would be feeling robbed because he was ahead and got a worse strategy.
He would, though. I don't think he would with George, especially in the position the team's in at the moment. Of course, I'm thinking back to like Australia at the start of the year, where Russell lucked into a safety car that really did gift him the podium that Hamilton deserved all weekend. I don't genuinely believe... I think this is the first time probably since Michael Schumacher left the team at the end of 2012 where there's kind of no... Maybe for a bit of 2017 as well, but there's kind of no resentment or deep-rooted... Not toxic rivalry, but certainly tense rivalry.
Yeah, I don't think there's any tension between Hamilton and Russell. But if Russell does go on to win the race with that different strategy, a win is different for Hamilton. Like, he's been trying so hard to win this season. Obviously, he always tries hard to win. That sounds a bit stupid to say. But if you're in Hamilton's shoes, you are ahead and you get put on a worse, what in hindsight is a worse strategy. Your teammate goes on to win on the better strategy, you would be feeling like robbed by that, I think. And yeah, he could probably take it in the short term, but like Mercedes can definitely do without those problems, which is why they always put their drivers on the same strategy.
But they got to try and win a race.
They have, and they should have done, I think. And potentially
really got all right.
The medium hard strategy, they were basically banking on Red Bull having to two-stop, which the predictions were all one-stops, even from soft to medium. So yeah, it was a strange call to start them on mediums. Obviously, you've backed yourself into a corner then, because you can't really do anything other than try and stretch it like 50 laps and go to soft at the end. But yeah, it was a shame. It was just overly conservative, I think, from Mercedes, which we see far too often from them.
But the thing was as well, wasn't it, of course, because even if their just whole focus is we want to try and beat Ferrari by the end of the year, even if they gambled it and rolled the dice, they were so far ahead of Ferrari anyway, they would have finished third and fourth. Like, the only way it could have gone wrong is if one of them got a puncture.
Yeah. And like,
just
if one of them stays out 45, 50 laps, a safety car hands it to you then. Like, it's just, it's a risk worth taking. Obviously,
you've got to,
hindsight, but yeah.
It was frustrating, wasn't it?
It seemed like they didn't really commit to either and just went in the middle and didn't really achieve anything. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, someone else that might have been a bit frustrated, though, poor Yuki Tsunoda. Daniel Ricciardo, probably rather worryingly, he took another car out and it was still, his race of the year.
Yeah.
Talk me through that incident.
Yeah, I was not best pleased because Yuki was in my fantasy team, which is fun. Tsunoda's just chilling in 11th
I've just realised as well, sorry, Jamie, to be very, very unprofessional halfway through the show, I've got no idea what my password is on F1 Fantasy, so there's going to be no way I can find out how
I guess I'm on
that
as well, all of it, brilliant. Yes, Tsunoda into turn 4. Well, it wasn't really turn 4, so it was just ahead. It was kind of turn 6, 2 corners later. Ricciardo just absolutely sent it from nowhere, was never really close enough alongside, and then Tsunoda gets launched into the air and is out of the race with side pod and floor damage. And yeah, that was very, very frustrating as a massive Yuki Tsunoda fan for one weekend until he got my team.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Ricciardo obviously at fault, gets a 10-second penalty, but because he was on those fresh softs, because he did the strategy that Russell should have done, he just blitzed it. He went so fast in a second stint. Yeah, that was for 11th when he took out Tsunoda. He then went on to pass Norris, then Alonso, but kind of, and then Ocon, and then gaps 10 sorry, then gaps 10 seconds on everyone. So he did end up finishing 7th despite the penalty, but the fact he probably gained about 25 seconds of race time compared to Ocon, who was effectively the next best of the rest. Yeah, that strategy was the one, I think. and it's a shame that more people didn't try it. But I think it was just Ricciardo and Vettel in the end.
Yes, yeah, no, it was a good strategy call, and yeah, just obviously a shame that Yuki Tsunoda was kind of a target in Daniel Ricciardo's firing line.
Yeah,
I did also love as well, I don't know if you've seen this clip, that when Ricciardo was lining up for a move on Esteban Ocon, he literally does a finger gunshot at him before he overtakes him.
He's so sad.
Did you not,
he just needs to
on
go.
his onboard? Well, the thing is, you say that, but this weekend, it was like Daniel Ricciardo's version of exactly what Seb did last weekend, where the pressure's off, you go out there, enjoy yourself, and you get a good result.
Well, and kill a young Japanese man at the same time.
I don't recall Seb doing that at
No,
Kota,
true.
but
Seb didn't do that.
maybe.
But I don't think Tsunoda enjoyed it as much as Ricciardo did. Let's put it that way.
No, I don't think he did. Poor little Yuki. But I mean, yeah, really, of course, I was kind of hoping that might bring out a safety car, just spice up the race somewhat towards the end. But the only other thing that happened was obviously a fraud Nando Alonso, a mechanical failure towards the
Get your comments in. There's the one this
I'm
week.
going to get those. Leave them down below. Get salty with me.
Alonso
again.
and Hamilton were beefing actually
blame
before
you.
the race. That was quite funny.
They were. I thought that was incredible because Hamilton won that beef.
Actually, Kimi Raikkonen won it because Hamilton bought a 07, which is irrelevant. So
Well, out of the two of them,
they screwed
Alonso,
themselves out of a title completely.
Exactly. It was a strange time down at McLaren, but yeah, I mean, Alonso, of course, very, very lucky again. I mean, he's just had a frustrating year, hasn't he? I mean,
Absolutely.
he was
definitely
not
on
exactly
for
an Alonso enthusiast.
He was at least getting 8th, probably getting 7th. He was quite far ahead of Ocon before he had the
Do you
problems.
reckon he would have got Ricciardo?
I think Ricciardo probably would have got him, but
Yeah.
maybe with the penalty, I don't know. It could have been 7th or 8th, which would have been a nice little haul for my fantasy team as well. But obviously not, because if I own them, that means they have to DNF. Yeah, very unlucky. He said in his interview what a year, another DNF for car 14 and stuff, which is one of his slander names on Twitter, which is ironic. Yes, very unfortunate. And that was kind of it. Bought out a VSC that changed nothing. And that was kind of the end of the race then.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Max Verstappen, a comfortable race victory in the end, breaks the record for the most wins in a Formula One season. Again, it's a new record. Don't get me wrong. Fair play to him. It'll stay in the record books, I'm sure, for a couple of years at the very least, depending on how OP next year's Red Bull car is as well. Does kind of lose its weight a bit, doesn't it, when you think he's, 20 races into a year, and Seb would have got 14 in a 20 race season, and Michael Schumacher probably would have got 16 in a 20 race season.
Yeah.
But, still, hats off to, he and Red Bull this year have been dominant in a way that, of course, we never even really saw at Mercedes, of course, because Bottas was always a lot closer to Hamilton, or Ferrari were always a lot closer to Hamilton. And obviously, of course, Rosberg was always very close to Hamilton, with the exception of 2015. So it has been the perfect storm for Red Bull, hasn't it? Not trying to take away from Verstappen's achievement, but
but even so, they had very stiff competition at the start of the year from Ferrari until they just completely self-destructed basically every race.
At Imola, yeah, round 4.
Imola onwards, it was poor, but yeah, very good season, obviously, for Max, record breaking.
Most points ever as well in the Formula 1 season.
Most points ever.
Already, and he's still got 2 races to
they must
probably score another 52.
Close. They must be getting pretty close to most wins in a row for a constructor, because they've won every race since Austria.
I think that's still across seasons, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. I feel like
McLaren
Williams 92, 93.
Most consecutive wins by a constructor is 11 by McLaren in the 1988 season.
Oh, fair enough. So they must be right there then.
They must be very close.
They must be right there. If that was Austria, what was Austria? Around 10 of the year? They must have done... No, because Ferrari won Austria and Ferrari won Silverstone.
Austria was after Silverstone, was it not?
No, it was the week before.
Oh. Here we go. Most consecutive wins. So they're on 9 right now, and the record is 11.
Yeah.
So if they win the last 2...
You win the final 2 races, which is very possible, which is probably quite likely, to be honest.
Yeah.
They've just got to start next year without both cars blowing up, I suppose.
Yeah,
we will wait
ideal.
and see about that. But yeah, Max Verstappen, though, won the Mexican Grand Prix then. Now officially the most successful driver at Mexico. Technically already was, but Jim Clark had 3 wins, although one of them wasn't a real Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton P2. Sergio Perez gets another podium. Fair play to him. Obviously, his dad loving life once more. And I think really that's kind of just all we wanted to see on TV was Checo's dad just vibing again. George Russell, I think, a bit gutted in P4 there. Sainz, Leclerc, Ricciardo, Ocon, Norris, and like you said at the start, Bottas finally getting more points on the board for Alfa Romeo there, even if it was just a one solitary one. But remember, Jamie told me a couple of weeks ago that Aston Martin would trounce Alfa Romeo.
I don't remember saying the word trounce.
I feel like that was the
I
vibe
said
that
Aston
was given
would
off
beat
at the time.
Alfa Romeo, and I still stand by that.
Fair enough, you moron. Alfa Romeo all the way, baby.
Well, I hope Alfa do it, but they won't.
Well, I believe in them. Let's jump into the quiz, though. I did want to try and genuinely segue into it quite a while ago, but you cut me off before I had a chance.
Oh, well, I should have been more forceful then.
I should have been, but you know me, I'm a gentle soul. We've already spoke about, obviously, Sergio Perez. We even mentioned another one of the drivers on this list. Jamie, there are 6 drivers from Mexico to have raced in Formula 1. You have got 1 minute to name all of them for me. And I've just realised I can't do a timer because I've got notes on my phone. Your time starts now.
Well, Checo, Perez.
Yep.
Esteban Gutierrez.
Yep.
Pedro Rodriguez. Ricardo Rodriguez.
Yep.
Other Mexicans.
You have 45 seconds. There's one that I hadn't heard of, and there's one that I had, but it's quite an obscure one.
That'll be super old, wouldn't it? Anyone's dad ever raced? No, Checo's dad didn't look like a F1 driver, really.
He looks like he's a peak Formula 1 driver. 30 seconds, by the way.
What's a typical Spanish name or Mexican name?
Oh, God, Jamie, don't start this.
Fernandez.
No.
Rodriguez. I've already said Rodriguez.
You said 2 Rodriguez.
Can you tell me the decades?
70s, I think, for one of them, and then 50s or 60s for the other.
I've got no chance.
No, 3, 2, 1, over.
Yeah. Well, I got the 4 I could have got.
You got the 4 that you should have got. One of them, I feel like when I say the name, you might realise, because he's actually been mentioned in the Formula 1 games before.
Oh, really? Who's that?
Yeah, Hector Rabac.
Who?
Can you remember what he was? Hector Rabac. Can you remember what he was famous for?
No, I didn't play Formula 1 games enough.
He was the last Formula 1 driver to race for his own team.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't. I only
Which,
played
of
one
course,
season
is
of
the
my team.
intro. Is the intro to F1 My Team, I think, back on F1 2020, of course, when it first got introduced. That obviously he was the last driver back in the 70s. And the other one, which I hadn't heard of, was Moises Solana. Not sure if he's related to the cryptocurrency, but there we are.
Yeah, that was
I can't imagine he was.
Low effort quiz from Matt there. We want better next week.
It was, but I'm trying to work everything off a laptop this week,
True,
so it's not going to
cut
be
you some
pretty.
slack.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, shall we move on to F1 Fantasy, which you cannot do anything for?
Do we not want to go driver of the day first? We're not going to stick to the schedule?
Let's do it.
Driver of the day, Jamie 183. Who are we saying? I think shout-outs. I mean, if he hadn't killed a small Japanese driver, it would be quite simply Daniel Ricciardo, wouldn't it?
He's the only one
Let's
didn't
be
he
fair. Yeah. But that one thing he did do was killing another driver. Really, we can't award driver of the day for that, can we?
Yeah, so...
Can we?
Because there's no candidates, I will go for Max Verstappen.
Okay, Jamie's going to pick favourites. I'm going to say Lewis Hamilton then. He actually made up places during the race.
Yep.
No, I think...
The resident Hamilton fanboy has spoken.
I think Bottas as well deserves a shout out. Of course, very, very strong qualifying. Lacked a bit in the race. Still the Bottas racecraft is lacking, unfortunately. I don't want to know how many times he got outbroke down into turn 1, but, picked up a point for for Alfa Romeo even nonetheless. That's really bad.
Yeah, who's employing you this week?
I can't remember. Let's move over then. Well, Jamie's going to have to move over to F1 Fantasy. I have been able to log into my team. No, I have been able to log into my team. Okay. Luckily, my laptop knew already. How many points, JB183, did you score this week?
Well, as we've already disclosed, there were 2 DNFs in the race, both of which were in my team.
I had one of them.
I'd had a pretty poor week, I think. I got 152.
Oh, I outscored you, but it was only by 4. And I felt really happy with my points.
Oh, so you want 156?
Yes.
I'm
that is 152 plus 4.
Did you turbo Sainz?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did as well. That was a good decision. Yeah, I had Verstappen, Sainz Turbo, and Ferrari, the classic trio, and then I had Alonso, and then I went a bit rogue with Tsunoda and Stroll, which didn't get many points.
Wise choice. No, I mean, I stuck with both Red Bulls, Sainz, Alonso, Bottas, and Alpine, which, I mean, to be honest, if Alonso hadn't retired late on, that would have probably netted me some pretty handy points. In the end, I would have probably been up towards about the 170 odd range, probably maybe 180.
All I need is Tsunoda finishes, he probably gets about 20 because he beat Gasly. Alonso finishes, he probably gets about 25, 30. I'm looking at 200 odd, but there we go.
Oh, Ricciardo There's no way Gasly would have got that many points.
No, Tsunoda because
Tsunoda even, because he didn't gain any places during the race, did he?
But he beat his teammate, out qualifying race.
That doesn't matter. Bottas beat his teammate and he scored me 7.
Oh. Well, yeah, maybe not then. Yeah,
but
there we go.
Trying to crush your dreams quickly.
Yeah, I'll run through everything because
please do, because I can't find it.
Yeah, Mexico. My rank, or my game week rank in Mexico was 1,698, which is above average, but not what I aspire to be in Matt's league, which now has 4,506 people. So fair play.
I feel like that's less than last week.
I do feel like that might be less. Maybe people got banned.
Have we lost people? Someone got DDoSed and banned from our league.
We should just remove everyone above me, I reckon.
I'm going to remove... Actually, can I remove people?
You probably can.
Overpowered.
I reckon.
I don't think I can.
Oh, wow. But yeah, the top team this week was Rosie V from Canada, who obviously mega drivered Verstappen with a turbo of Sainz.
As you would. I've still got a Mega Driver.
Then Red Bull as a team, which netted at 1-3, so decent. Albon, Bottas, and also Tsunoda. So it could have been even better if Ricciardo didn't exist, which sums up McLaren's season, really. That was 302 points.
Pretty much Formula 1 this year.
302 points to win. At second place, 301 points for Giotimaya M. Sorry about your name. Which I just butchered, but there we go. Also, Tsunoda, everyone got screwed by me. I mean, this guy had Ricciardo as well as Tsunoda, so that must have been stressful.
I don't think people worry about F1 fantasy the way you do, mate.
I only do because there was nothing else to care about in that race. I was like, where's Tsunoda? Yeah, Max Mega, Sainz, Alonso, Tsunoda, and Ricciardo. So 2 DNFs and still second place. Wow. Yeah, Selwyn P in third. Chris Y in fourth, Selwyn P other team in fifth. So wow, that's very good. Larry T, who I think is doing really well, but it's not Scuderia Wickham. It's a different team for Larry T in sixth place. Then Bashar I in seventh with Brant B, Mauro Valmagia. There's some good reading from me, and Rosario Roldan, the two Argentinians in ninth and 10th. So yeah. 248 was the points he needed to get top 10 this week. I got 158 too, so I was 96 points off.
If I'd Mega Driver Max, I would have probably just about scraped that.
I might have done as well. Yeah, I would have done.
But you haven't got a Mega Driver left.
I haven't.
I do.
That's true. But yeah, that leaves the overall, which is pretty settled at this point in the season. We've still got the Volvo 240 17 Global 2021 in first. Quite a distance. Philip S, that is, quite a distance ahead of the boy who cried wolf, with Bryce G, ahead of Larry T. Actually, that is his first team, which came... No, it isn't, sorry. It's a different team that came in the top 10 this week. But he's still third overall with Max T. It's all fallen apart for him. Although he might still finish second or first, which, if he manages that after, Mega Hamilton in Spa, that would be very impressive. We've got DMG in fifth with Rosario Roldan sixth, ahead of Mihir S, Kevin L, Atia M, and Nihal V in 10th place. So you need 3,939 points to get top 10. I don't think I'm getting it.
So all I need to do is Mega Driver someone either in Brazil or Abu Dhabi who nets 300 points alone.
Yeah, which seems unlikely, to be honest.
I'm not going to count it out. I reckon there's still a top 10 overall in the books for me come the end of the year.
Yeah, well, that's our F1 fantasy rundown. I believe I'm still trouncing Matt overall.
I believe you are.
309th for me, so that's all right.
I'm just outside the top 1,000, so definitely.
That is poor.
You sweat. You are also, I'm afraid, Jimmy, going to have to try and find the predictions recap, although, to be fair, I don't think I want to hear them this week, because I think it is all but over, isn't it?
Almost, I think. I don't think it's quite. I haven't quite worked it out, but predictions recap,
There's 18
of course,
points available.
Matt had to go bold and do something different to what I was going to do, which was very safe and boring, but effective. So there we go. I went for a Verstappen pole, a Verstappen win, with a Perez
4 points.
And Leclerc second and third. So I got 5 points.
5 points. So you're on 69. Well done.
Nope.
Extra credit to you.
71 actually. 66
Why?
plus
you're
5.
On 64. You're on 64.
It says 66 on mine.
Does it?
Yeah, it says 66 to 47.
I'm pretty certain. Okay, well, I'm not sure that's right. I've got the scores muddled up somewhere. The whole season's void.
Yeah, much like lap 58 in your mind.
That's an unnecessarily hurtful thing.
There we go. And I believe you went for a Leclerc pole, a Leclerc win.
None.
With it was Perez and Hamilton, but in the wrong order. So you got 2 points.
So I got 2 points. So how many points am I
on? 49.
49.
And I'm on 71.
So it's over. So there's
no!
18 points available, and there's 22.
That is very powerful.
Oh no! If you see anything on Twitter from me in the next
exactly.
I don't think you can. I feel like there's going to be some rules.
Yeah, there's some boundaries. I'll be nice. I'll be.
I feel like there's going to be an Alonso tweet on my account very soon. Oh damn it!
That's just to boost the interactions.
Okay.
I'll achieve that for you. Don't worry.
I mean, let's not beat around the bush, Jamie. Race ratings to finish us off. It was a bit dull, wasn't it?
It was
a 3.5, a 4 out of 10.
I'd give it 3. I gave it a little 2 stars on your little community post. So
thank you very much. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Yeah, arguably one of the worst races of the year.
I think it probably is the worst. I haven't watched all of them.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember all of them particularly.
No.
But I'm pretty sure it was the worst.
Probably very sadly. Anything else to add though, Jamie, before we round this show out?
I don't believe so. Let me just.
I think we've done pretty well this week.
Twitter real quick.
Yeah, see if anything controversial has gone on. I mean, we've got to mention the fact that Alonso did in the end get his P7 reinstated from COTA, but we both had brain cells, so we knew that would happen anyway. Apparently the FIA don't, but
someone in NASCAR wall rode for P5.
Yes, Ross Chastain pulled off either 1,000 IQ or the most redneck thing you've ever seen, but as someone that is actually genuinely a fan of NASCAR, fair play to him, because that was such a critical move. And you could only ever get that in NASCAR, so they're going to be hyping up that for years.
If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Just
I mean, you have to have seen it by now. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It is everywhere at the moment. I mean, that will probably replace NASCAR now. They still focus on the 2007 Daytona 500 finish. They've finally got some replacement B-roll, which says it all. It only took them 15 years. But, I mean, if Ross Chastain goes into next weekend and somehow wins this thing, that will be how he did it. That will be what he's remembered for. And I think whether he does or whether he doesn't, that car is probably going in the Hall of Fame anyway.
Yeah. So that's our NASCAR
None of those
chat
words
for the
Jamie
season.
understood.
I was just
None of
nodding
those
along.
words Jamie
Smile
had
and
no
wave.
idea. Smile and wave, just like the penguins from Madagascar.
That's exactly what I was quoting. Thank you.
What a weird reference we've gone down.
That about rounds us up. And since I did the intro, I might as well outro it as well. So thank you for watching.
It. Take it away.
Episode number 180, not 183, or 83 in the can. Only 100 episodes, 2 other J183 tribute show.
We're going to do a 2-hour podcast of your greatest hits.
Oh, we should. That would be ideal. Let us know what you thought, your own race ratings, how you got on in fantasy, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how you outro these usually, but we'll see you next time for more Knowing Wheel.